Well, hi everybody. It is so great to be back, and I'm really excited about our conversation today. I have a wonderful guest. Her name is Nicole Burgess, and Nicole is a clinically trained soul-led leadership coach. And she works with highly sensitive professional women leaders. She's also the host of the Soulfilled Sisterhood podcast, which is a fantastic podcast. I admit I'm a big fan. She's also the founder of the Self-Care Summit, Improve Your Bottom Line and Your Persona. Nicole, welcome to our podcast. We are so happy to get to have a conversation with you today.
Well, thank you so much for having me on, Laura. I'm so excited to be here.
Great. Well, I have to share with our audience, I've had my own personal experience in getting to work with you, and I always take so much away from our conversations and our work together. And again, your podcast was one. Boy, I followed it regularly for a very long time and still refer to many of your episodes. Do you mind just tell us a little bit about yourself? I just kind of want to warm us up a little and get the audience a chance to get to know you a little.
Yeah. So I have been a licensed marriage and family therapist in various states for going on almost 20 years now, which is hard to believe. I've been doing some coaching now, probably the last 5 years. It's not like my full-time job, but it's definitely a big chunk of things at times. And then I've been podcasting on and off. Wow. This has been a long time, because even before Soulfilled Sisterhood, I had another podcast. And just lots of experience, get a lot of topics coming in from, clinical clients, coaching clients, and different themes, and thought they would be important to share with others, right, in a bigger scale. Because I know often I've been asked, like, are you going to write a book? No, I don't like writing. So no, even though there's been thoughts of like, yeah, maybe I'll write a book. No, I won't. Podcasting was the easiest way to really get messages out. And it gave me an opportunity to even grow my own confidence level by reaching out to people I didn't know. You and I had a couple conversations on the Soulfilled Sisterhood, which I know over the years I've worked with folks who have, dealt with aging parents and what comes with that. And where do I go? And I'm like, oh, you got to listen to the one I chatted with Laura on this one, or this one, on Laura's. And we're now go out to your podcast and listen to that, because there's tons of information. So over the years, it's been fun. I'm a constant learner, grower, and most of the people that I work with are too. And so that's fun, that you continuously want to up level yourself in a way, and continue to have conversations with others so that you don't get stuck in your own blindness. Right. And we keep the dialogue going so we can really help heal different parts of our country, parts of our world, and humanity in general. That we treat everyone with respect, no matter what.
Love that.
Yeah.
You made me think of, I just did a presentation last week for the Adult Family Home Council of Washington State. It was really fantastic. And I opened the presentation with this concept that in order to change a culture, you need to change individuals first.
Beautiful.
And what you're saying just really resonates with that we have all these things going on in the world on a large scale, this macro level, and then even on a micro level in our own lives and families for those that are caring for family members. And we can take it in even deeper into our own personal journey and our own personal change. And so you're just a great person to be talking to about this. So,
oh, well, thanks.
Yeah. And I also happen to know, I just want to throw this out too, because I know something that really feeds your spirit is your textile work.
Yes.
And I think it's important to address that so that the rest of us out there remember that there are different avenues that we can tap into that really feed our spirit. So
yeah. It's a lot of highly sensitive people, they are known also for their creativity. And I know people who are non-HSPs can also be extremely creative, but there's something about, for me, that I've been doing it since I've been a young girl in some form or fashion, something, I've been doing some textile stuff. And I know the work with humans is, while it's creative, it's not tactile, right? And I also know for me, I need that tactile piece. So last year I ended up creating another business. So I'm like going on 3 businesses, but I was like, why not? And so I called, and I've got my little things up here. It's called the Creative Soul Fiber Arts, and it's an LLC. And then I go by doing business as is the Nicole Burgess Textiles. And I'm slowly, I've been doing weaving probably now 7 years or a little more, and getting more confident in the different types of fibers. So I can totally do cottons. Now I'm working in with Tencel, which is like a silkier kind of material, and doing that and getting into more complex types of weaving. And I just love it. I love watching how the cloth is forming. And in our work that we do, we don't typically get to see the beginning, the middle, and the end. And I do with my textiles. So I get the full product. And it's very rewarding to me. And I just love creating the color. I love creating another way of beauty that we add back into the world, and not letting this type of modality die, right? I know there's thousands of weavers, and they're all over the country, over the world, I mean, but it's not letting this type of thing die, like just go to the wayside. It's ancient art. So
I love the symbolism, or maybe the idea of weaving as a metaphor, and what you said about that there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I I think that that's so important for people. And again, I'm thinking about our caregivers who are on this kind of endless journey. And
yes.
it doesn't feel like there's ever an end in sight, or the end may not feel so good because the end might be someone's death. And
Correct.
so I can see having an activity or a source of creative outlet in which you can tap into that other realm, that other piece. Yeah.
And one thing, this is just totally off the cuff, and I know it doesn't have nothing to do with our questions, but part of it is when you were saying that, for the caregivers out there, if they feel like it's an ongoing struggle at times, or that there's the permanence of death, because we know we all are going to die at some point in time. One way that I've told clients over the years is to create like scrapbooks, create memory books. So if you have pictures of your parents, grandparents, those that you're caring for, loved ones, get it as young as you possibly can. So there's their beginning, the middle where you are in it, and then the end when they actually do die. You've now got a full range and stories to tell to whoever. And that can be passed on to the next generation, but that can also feel very fulfilling for yourself to see, here's part of my heritage, here's where I've come from, and here's, what was left for me.
Here's the story that was being weaved, right?
Yes.
Life. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate that, because sometimes ideas are presented like that. But when you apply it to this deeper meaning of a reflection of, again, weaving through someone's life, or
call it like the tapestry, right? It's the ongoing creating the pictures. And again, tapestry is done different than weaving. They're different modalities in a sense, but again, it's a tapestry of life. You've got starts, things that break, times in between, but you can still create various pictures, create various meanings through those moments.
For me, Nicole, I have to admit, I'm one of those people that I should say, I'm using quotes here, used to think of myself as not a creative person.
I would challenge that.
I knew you were going to do that. That's what I had to say with quotes. And just the way you describe that just now, I get that. Like I get when the idea of putting meaning into the work, into the craft, that speaks to me. And I could see myself really getting into an activity or a craft or a project with that intention. So thanks for bringing that up. I know that wasn't on our topic list.
It wasn't, and if you also think about it, right, we're known as storytellers. Now, I often say I don't think I'm a great storyteller, but again, stories come out in various forms and fashions. And so if you're not a picture taker or a video taker, or you don't like to do that, then write the story. There are so many creative ways to document life itself, the stages, the ups, the downs, the tragedies. When you're kind of in it so much, it's hard to kind of see maybe a bigger picture. But those, part of what we're talking about today too, is that self-care piece, is zooming out and let me reflect on what did go well over the life, even if, I'm caring for this person right now and it's so challenging, so hard. Where's my moments of just like, oh, that brought me joy. I felt very loved. Those sort of things. It's like, it's okay to have glimpses of that and jot it down. Just put it on paper, stick it in a journal so that another day you'll set aside and, spend an hour just typing some of those memories up.
Yeah, no, that I want to highlight that point. I think you're bringing such a great perspective, right? Perspective is everything. And so often when we are overburdened and overworked and stressed out, and we're so in it that we can't see, we can't, it's hard to pan out and see the bigger picture. But the idea of doing that, the idea of taking a step back, whether that's a deep breath and just removing yourself for a moment and looking at the bigger picture. Wow. Yeah. And I'm sure most of us can look back in our lives and reflect on the challenges we've had that in the moment we weren't able to see the gift in it, or the direction that it may be leading us to. And so, yeah, this is good. Thank you for that. So let's talk also a little bit about, because you have so much knowledge in so many areas. And I know one of the things that you know a lot about is how stress or anxiety impacts the body and how it manifests in the body. And of course, a lot of our listeners are in the middle of it right now. They're experiencing that. And so can you talk a little bit about that piece for folks?
Yeah. So oftentimes I've got, folks who will tell me like, oh, I got stomach aches more often, or what I like to say for me, I often hold it in my shoulders. And so I'm like, so my shoulders are up to my ears, right? My shoulders have gone up. I've lost my neck. And sometimes it's as simple as taking a deep breath, pulling the shoulders down and back. That can help as you're taking in through your nose, out through your mouth for your breathing, and belly breathing, not chest breathing, can help just relax a little bit. So if you've got a lot of stomach aches, if you're finding you're getting a lot of headaches, and maybe you get migraines set on by stress, all of those are often kind of the warning signs of the body, or there's a ton of tension. Maybe it's in one shoulder, one leg, or certain part of your back. It's paying attention to that. It's like, okay, what does that part need right now? Maybe it's, I need just to rub my left shoulder. Maybe I need to do a few stretches. Maybe I need to go take a small walk. It's, drinking water. Oftentimes people are dehydrated because they're not drinking enough water. And when we pay attention to those things, because the body is constantly talking, then it's like, oh yeah, I'm taking care of everybody else but me. And if I don't take care of me, the old adage, it's like, you're the empty teacup, and it's like, you've got nothing else to give. And so often, I would get the pushback over the years from folks in various stages of life, from youngers to older folks. And they're just like, but I don't have time to take care of myself. I'm like, you don't have 5 or 10 minutes to pause for you when you're in the shower, taking a shower, visualizing the day's stress leaving your body, or envisioning as the shower water is coming over you, you're feeling replenished before the day has started. When you're brushing your teeth, stay brushing your teeth. And then other solutions often bubble up, at least they do for me as I'm brushing my teeth. Different thoughts or how to solve something will bubble up because I'm in the moment. Those 5 or 10 minutes, that's mindfulness. That's like a moving meditation. That's all self-care. And that may be all you can do in where you're at right now in life, but it's totally possible.
Absolutely. You're bringing up so many good points. One of the things that you said that really I wanted to highlight is that our bodies are always talking to us. And how often we're not listening. So then our body gets louder and louder. So we have no choice but to listen. And the other thing that I'm thinking about what you said, and I just heard this I was listening to another podcast this morning, and it was actually Dr. Zach Bush. He's just a beautiful man. I was listening to him talk, and he was talking about how somebody had people in general will tell him, I don't have enough time. And let me tell you, I relate to that. And I know a lot of our listeners relate to that too. and how we spend so much of our concept of time. We spend so much time in our minds and in our thoughts, and we're not present in the moment. And we will spend hours. I mean, if you really add it up throughout the day, hours sometimes thinking about the thought that we don't have enough time, or that we're so stressed out, or that we, wish we had this or that. And you're just highlighting this point of if we can get out of our minds and really be in the moment and listen to our bodies, what a gift. It's almost creating a moment of timelessness.
Correct.
You're in the shower and you're envisioning the water washing away the stress, or like you said, you're brushing your teeth and you're just noticing the fact that you're brushing your teeth and how that feels on your gums, and how you're holding the toothbrush, and the smells and things that come with that. Those moments are creating moments of timelessness and detachment from the current stress state.
And my clientele, both clinically and coaching wise, they are often very much like I call them like very much in their head. And it's not necessarily about caregiving, but I know as a caregiver, you are a lot in your head because you're making decisions all the time. You're paying attention to what that person needs or persons need. But the overthinking, the overanalyzing, that being up cerebral all the time, we're disconnected. So I'm like, let's get your body into the session as well as your mind and head that's in the session already. And the more we practice the connection between our mind, body, and then also the spirit, right? That's the full connection. Then we're open to receive information that is more from universe, more from the divine. You're open to hearing other people's possibilities or maybe support that you weren't, because you're just like, I got this, I can do this. And it's paying attention that perfectionism is also not trying to drive the show, because it's often very fear-based. And when we're present, we're not in the past, we're not in the future, this is the moment I have right now, and I'll never have this moment again. And there is a peacefulness with that. There's a freedom with that when we allow ourselves to be in the moment. Yes. It doesn't mean you're not planning for things that maybe you've got to do down the road, but it's like, if I'm constantly in that future, anxiety, of course, is going to be running a lot of that show when we live there.
Yeah. And I'm also thinking about how we've really programmed our brains to live in that state unintentionally, of course. All of this, we're doing the best we can, and we have the best intention. We're trying hard to do everything right, and we feel like we're always chasing the problem sometimes. But what I know happens is that our brains get programmed, those little neurons, those synapses
connecting.
Yeah. And then that's our our autopilot. That's our automatic go-to state. When we wake up in the morning, it's like, turn it back on and it just runs itself. So I can see, Nicole, as you're talking, that it might feel like some effort at first for people to bring themselves back out of their head and back into their body.
Well, and like you're saying, the effort it's because the chaoticness, that's what I'll call it. That's why I typically label it for my clients. It's like, well, I got used to the chaos. I know how to run myself. It's like, yes. And you also know how to drain yourself by living in that state of being. So it's now become the habit, right? We can very easily create anxious habits. And so to unlearn it, it feels uncomfortable at first. It doesn't feel like, oh, I just knew this over here. And it's like, that's great. Your ego really knew it. Your body kind of knew it. Your head kind of knew it. But to practice it for a couple weeks straight, again, 5-10 minutes a day, that's not a lot. And that does make big changes in the brain. It grows the gray matter. We know that it starts to change those connections, like you're saying, in the brain. And all of a sudden you're recognizing, like, I actually remember what I had for lunch today. Oh my gosh, I remember I had my cup of coffee this morning and I drank it slowly, listening to the birds, right? All those very simple things keep you grounded for longer throughout the day versus I got to shove down the cup of coffee and then I'm drinking too much coffee. So the caffeine creates more anxiety for me. And then I'm going. And I'm forgetting to deep breathe. And so I'm breathing from my chest and my vagus nerve is getting smaller. So I've just generated more anxiety, right? And pretty soon you're like jittery all the time.
Yeah. And you're not
So it's
present.
correct.
You're bringing up another point I'm thinking of, and that is a lot of people many caregivers are concerned about their own memory because they're caring for someone, whether it's a parent or a spouse that is losing their memory. And so there's a fear, that's the fear component that's added to their experience. But then one of the things that I know is that when you're not fully present in what you're doing, the information doesn't even go in.
Correct.
There's no opportunity to create memory.
No. And I hear that as well from folks that they're like, I think I'm losing my memory. So they're describing stuff that's been going on for a while. And they're, again, not necessarily caregiving for folks. I'm like, that's called anxiety. So like you're saying, yeah, when you are not present, when you're not being mindful, where you're not being intentional with your thoughts or where you are, you won't be able to concentrate as well. You're absolutely not going to put anything into long term. You're going to forget what those car keys are. And so it's like, give yourself some grace, knowing that you've got some stress going on. But if you keep practicing small amounts of mindfulness every day, you'll start to see an improvement with that.
So let me ask another question, because some people know exactly what we're talking about when we say mindfulness, and other folks don't. They just haven't really been exposed to the idea. And so when we say things like, oh, practice being mindful throughout the day, what exactly, like, what are some go-to tools or tips, or give our listeners some ideas about things they can do.
Yeah. So again, like when you're brushing your teeth, brush your teeth. When you're in the shower, take a shower. Pay attention to how much shampoo you're actually putting on your hand, washing your hair if you have hair. I know some people don't, right? So it's like however you clean yourself, you're paying attention to that. I encourage my clients, when they go out for walks, you're observing things. Mindfulness is about observing thoughts, and we have constant thoughts flowing through our head. Constant scenery stuff is going on, visual stuff is coming in, auditory, all that good stuff is coming in. You're observing it. You're not attaching to it. You're not trying to make meaning of it, because we know humans are meaning making machines, but we're not there to be like, well, that tree is bending on its side and it must be rotten because the wind is blowing too much. It's like, I see that the tree limbs are moving. I feel the wind on my face. I feel the sun on my face. I feel the warmth. Those are all observations.
Got it. That's
right?
Really helpful. Yeah, that's really helpful. Not because I notice one of two things for myself when I'm out throughout my day, whatever I'm doing. I'm either not present at all. My mind is completely somewhere else, or I'm doing what you just described, which is, oh, I notice, I'm petting my dog. And then I notice, oh, his nails need trimmed, or I should give him a bath, or, I just go right back onto the loop of the tasks, to perform. And so what I hear you saying is, which we often hear when folks talk about meditating or this or that, is notice the thought. It's okay to have thoughts. We're human beings and we will have thoughts. Notice the thought and then let it go. Come back into the senses, come back into the body. That's really helpful. Yeah. You said something else earlier too that I wanted to ask you to maybe talk a little about. You mentioned the word perfectionism, and I think this is a word that a lot of our listeners might relate to, in that so many people that I know, they're caring for a loved one, that whether it's an adult child caring for a parent, or a spouse caring for their partner, or another family member or friend. Most people that end up in that sort of caregiving role are people that want to do a good job. They want to do the right thing. And many people are scrambling and they don't know, we're not given a roadmap. We're not
right. You don't have a manual. This is how you do from the birth of your child all the way through the death of a parent. Yes. Okay. Thank you for that handbook. I'm all good. Check. Yeah. It doesn't work that way.
Exactly. Yeah. That people say, if I know what to do, I can just do it. And, but we don't have that. Right. And so, I could go through the whole list of all the different hats that we have to wear as caregivers, and whether that's being someone's partner or child, or and then you go down the list of being an advocate, but you're also the nurse, you're also the scheduler, the cook, the cleaner, the taxi driver, everything that we do during the day really ends up falling on caregivers' shoulders. And so, yeah, can you talk a little bit about helping people kind of navigate that desire to do it right and to be the best in that role, while also the impact that can have on folks?
So often perfectionism is the fear of what other people are going to think of you. And that, I mean, it can be any role you're in. So I got to be the perfect caregiver, the perfect parent, the perfect business owner, the perfect spouse, perfect whatever, kid, right? And I think women a lot are trained more so, we know, as a caregiver, but also like being perfect. Like you've got to do everything very, very well. Otherwise you may, be looked at funny, right? Perfectionism, though, can also look like the fear of not wanting to do something brand new because you may make a mistake, not being spontaneous at times because, again, what will people think? And just so afraid of what others may think of you. And it's like, well, it's none of your business. If they're not telling you what their thoughts are, then stay out of their lane, stay in your own lane. We know living is messy. We know when you are caring for somebody, because we don't have the handbook for every answer on the planet and things continue to change, right? That it's like you're doing the best that you can. When you get stuck in perfectionism, you also don't let in joy, you don't let in love, and you have a hard time being in the moment and letting in peace as well. So if somebody's like, well, why aren't you doing your caregiving this way? It's like, I didn't even know that way existed, but thank you for letting me know. Or I actually don't have the resources for doing that over here, right? Be where you are. But no one is saying you have got to do everything perfectly as that caregiver for whoever it is you're caring. Nobody's stating it. If they are, they're not the one you're going to look to for support. Because unless they're going through what you're going through, they get outside the ring. It's like, you go sit in those bleachers and you keep it up over there, but you don't get to take away my energy anymore. Yeah. And that would be what those boundaries are for.
Yeah, that's really helpful because a lot of people experience that. They have other people in their lives that show up when it's convenient for them, and they have a lot of opinions maybe about how things would go. So yeah, I think that's a really important reminder. You said that I love this. I wrote as you were talking that quote, perfectionism can keep out the joy and the love and the peace in your life. And I just wanted to highlight that again. I think that's a really important statement for people to reflect on.
It blocks you from receiving, right? Because in your mind, what often that I call that perfectionist part. Remember, it's not all of you, it's a part of you. And if that part is popping forward like, well, you're not doing this right, and you can't seem to do this, I'm like, well, now you got a critic going on with the perfectionist. They're battling it out. But it's going to keep telling you how wrong you are, how you keep messing up, how maybe you suck at doing X, Y, and Z. And when that inner doubt continues to grow, it's hard to allow yourself moments of joy. It's hard to allow some happiness. It's like, well, I can't have that because I did this so wrong, right? It's like, no, you can have both. You can make mistakes and still laugh and feel love and feel joy. It's not an either or. Remember, we do a lot of either oring in our life, and perfectionism is very much about all or nothing thinking. That's the cognitive distorted thinking that we call it in the therapy world, right? Or the black and white thinking. It's very rigid. And our job is to say, no, there's a lot of gray in life. What may work for one caregiver and how they've set up their caring and the driving and the this is and the that's beautifully, but maybe what works for you is two parts of it. Because that's what works for you and whoever you're caring for. And that's okay. Yes. It doesn't need to look like anybody else's.
Yeah. So if anybody needs to hear permission today, then you're hearing it from us for sure. Yeah. There is no one right way to do.
No.
work. Yeah.
I mean, you brought that up when you and I talked on my show, and just, stuff, of course, I don't know anything about, and you're sharing it's like, well, if you've got an estranged parent, you can do these things, you can do this thing. And I'm like, well, I'd only go this way with it, and it's like, again, because that's what I knew. Right. But it's like, no, I didn't even know that wasn't even an option, but there it is.
Yeah.
If you're open to, if somebody is asking, would you like to hear how I did it when I was caring for so-and-so? That's asking first for your permission. Are you even open? And you get to say no. If you don't want to hear, you're like, I've had 50,000 suggestions today and I would want to tell everybody to stick it somewhere. No, I'm good. Then that's fine. But if there's more of a give and take in that dialogue, like, well, yeah, I would like to hear how you did manage this. Then you share that. Again, you still can leave it.
Mm-hmm.
It's a choice. But it's very different when someone asks if you want support or if you're open to hearing how they did something or what worked for them versus, well, Laura, why aren't you doing it this way? That's wrong. You shouldn't have done it that way, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, again, critic, go sit outside somewhere else.
Yeah.
Don't have time or space for that.
Yeah. This, I love this conversation because I'm, as we're talking, I'm hearing us going back and forth between outside critics or advice, well-meaning or not so well-meaning folks, but then also the internal voices in our heads that are giving us those messages as well. And so you're helping give us tools on having some helpful boundaries with those people in our lives that might be sharing in a not so helpful way. And you're giving us some helpful tools on how to also manage the critic within our minds as well. Yeah.
Because first, if you recognize that part that's coming up internally and criticizing you, just recognize, oh, that, and give it a name. I don't care if you call it the inner critic or what name you give it. And sometimes you need to say, just go take a back seat. I'm the one driving the car today. You are not. You may need to write things down and actually look at, it's like, okay, so my current hot thought is this. And, is that really true? How true is that? Is there other options for it? You may just kind of go back and forth and you just recognize it's like, oh man, that's an all or nothing kind of thinking. And so no, it's like either you're going to get the routine down perfectly or you're not going to do it at all. It's like, oh no, that's not true. Sometimes I can make this time work and sometimes I can make this day or time work. And that both are okay. Yeah. It doesn't have to be one way only.
Presenting the option to it's softening, like you said, instead of having the black or white thinking that there's a lot of gray.
Yes.
It's okay to dip in and out of the gray. The gray area can often be your friend. And the other thing you said too that I liked was you said that is only a part of you.
Yes, so it's not all of you.
Yeah, we identify so much with those loudest, strongest voices and messages in our bodies and our minds. And so I love that reminder just for myself personally, and I'm sure for our listeners too, that we don't have to identify just because we're having a thought, or a feeling. We are not our feelings. We do not have to be our thoughts and our feelings. We experience those thoughts and feelings, but there's a what do you call it? Metaphor, I guess, where you've probably heard this too, that you are the sky, you are not the weather. And so, I like that. Isn't that nice? I love when I heard that too. It just resonated like, yes. There's been a lot of storms lately, or, sometimes there's blue sky and the sun is out, but that weather will come and go. And we don't have to identify with the weather. We don't have to identify with our emotions or even our thoughts. That just gave me anyway, a sense of, distance, I guess, or
the spaciousness. When you say sky, I'm thinking like, you are endless, right? In that moment. So it's like, I can watch the storms roll in and I watch them dissipate, roll in, dissipate, form, change. So it's the same thing with all of our thoughts and emotions. There's no permanence with any of that.
Right. Yeah. This is great, Nicole. I love our conversations that we have together. And tell us, is there any other, before we wrap up, I'm curious if you have any favorite self-care methods or just ideas that you might want to throw out for folks that might be helpful.
I know for me, because again, I'm an HSP, it's one, being in nature. We know that whether you're an HSP or not is a huge calming factor for people. It literally just, it calms people down. It calms the brain down. So whether you can physically be out in nature, you can look out a window and see trees, the sun, or something that can help just bring you back to the moment, help you kind of calm back down if you're feeling really anxious or worried about something. I often say, when you're really in your head, get out paper, just just blot it down, just put it down, just dump it, do a brain dump. That's what I was looking for. Brain dump it down, because I like to say the brain likes to be this little hamster in a wheel, and it's going to go around and around and around. Cause like, oh, you're going to forget it. You're going to forget it. You're going to forget it. It's like, I am not going to forget it. It's like, but you are, you're going to get it. You're going to have this. I need to remind you 50,000 times. But as soon as you put it down on paper, don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about spelling. Just throw it down on paper. One, you get to say, see, got it down now, brain. You can stop, regurgitating it to me. And sometimes literally laying that piece of paper down and taking 10 steps back can help you honestly get a different perspective. Because again, you're not the thought, just like what you were saying earlier. And I can look at, oh, well, what's a different avenue? Maybe it is okay for me to ask for help. Maybe I have stopped myself from asking for help because I'm thinking I need to do it all. Again, I got to be perfect at this. Nope, so-and-so is here to visit. Maybe I will ask them to go to the grocery store and pick up these items while I'm doing this thing over here. Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's part of it, right? It's not being afraid to ask others for help. They have the option to say no. Know that. But
Mhm.
asking is a big thing. Nobody can mind read. And it doesn't make you less. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you somehow unworthy or you can't do something by asking for help. It takes a tribe to raise children. It can take a tribe to care for somebody too.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. Thank you for calling that out too. Cause I think what a lot of people experience is it taps into their fear of rejection. If I don't ask, I can't be rejected.
Yeah.
And
And what's
to
the worst? So what's the worst part of being rejected, right? Again, it's the story. What's the story you're telling? Well, if I'm rejected, I suck as a person. Whatever.
yeah. Yep. Exactly. It's helpful to reframe it that way. That's great. Thank you, Nicole. I jotted those down. I'm going to include a lot of these in our show notes too, so that folks can easily go back and find some of these tips and tools. So tell us, Nicole, how if folks want to learn more about you or follow some of your work, what's the best way that they can reach out and
Yeah. So my coaching website is this NicoleBurgessCoaching.com. And on that, there's a tab I think it's a tab navigation for, they can get to the Soulfilled Sisterhood podcast, and all the episodes are there. There's like 120 something or other there. I'm kind of on hiatus at the moment, but there's still tons that are out there from all the interviews I've done over the years. And then on social media, I'm on Facebook, more on LinkedIn than anything. Both of those, on Facebook, it's Nicole Burgess Coaching, and on LinkedIn, I think it's Nicole Burgess Coaching. I know you'll have the links in the show notes, but
yeah, I'll
those are
definitely.
the kind of the two places that I somewhat hang out on, so they can find me that way.
It's great. Well, thank
Yeah.
you so much. This has been such a good conversation with you, and I wish you well. And I know that we will be in touch. Again, I'm kind of a big fan of your work myself. So
Well, thank you for having me on. And I'm so happy you have created this podcast. I know you've had a big following within your own group for people, but you're just reaching so many more people who are really going through so much with caregiving. And I think what you're doing is extremely valuable. So thank you for doing your work too.
thanks, Nicole.